Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. To those black people that limit your studies to researching only the Bible, when we limit our pursuit for knowledge to only literature that was provided to us by the white oppressive society, we are allowing them to mentally enslave us. The mind that refuses correction builds its own prison stone by stone. But the mind that welcomes truth breaks every mental chain with a single thought. However, our core problem is that the ignorant and mentally enslaved ones are ignorant of their own ignorance and mental enslavement. Furthermore, the system of white supremacy has made the ignorant and mentally enslaved ones overconfident and has made the intelligent ones self-doubting. Therefore, the intelligent ones now remain silent. This silence allows the false belief held by the ignorant and mentally enslaved ones to prevail throughout the black communities, keeping the black masses ignorant and mentally enslaved by false knowledge and to the benefit of the system of white supremacy. In fact, the ignorant and mentally enslaved ones literally function as wardens of our own mental prisons. Furthermore, they are so brainwashed that they fight fiercely against the intelligent ones that are trying to free their minds. These ignorant, mentally enslaved ones are those who are now insisting that Jesus will be returning to save us. They're also insisting that we're being controlled by a silly slave syndrome myth, and they also believe the idiotic narrative that we made the N-word ours and that using it now ridiculously empowers us. All research facts proves that Jesus Christ and Willie Lynch never existed, and that we never made the N-word ours, and using it does not empower us. I will not be silent to appease ignorance, because doing so would be to participate in our own demise. Because we will never liberate ourselves, assigning our plight onto a biblical fairy tale written by our most ungodliest enemies, and that was forced upon us during our lowest time in history. Nor will we liberate ourselves by blaming our collective condition onto a silly slave syndrome myth, which presents what would in fact be the least effective method used for controlling generations of millions of people. When we attempt to liberate ourselves based upon easily proven works of fiction, we are in fact making fools of ourselves. Doing so is literally equivalent to that of a child marching into a real war carrying a toy gun, or like a people foolishly trying to liberate themselves based upon a fictional comic book. And calling ourselves by the N-word by any spelling is a stupid and idiotic practice. Lies don't become true, wrong don't become right, and stupidity doesn't become intelligence because they're accepted by the brainwashed masses. A speaker of truth has no friends, African proverb. Usually people have the right to believe whatever they choose to believe. However, unlike most people, that's a luxury that the oppressed does not have. There's a profound exception to that rule when it comes to the oppressed. The oppressed must gain a clear, concise, and accurate understanding of our plight and condition in order to liberate ourselves. Because if our understandings are flawed, then all of our liberating remedies and strategies that stem from those flawed understandings will also be flawed. We must function based upon what is actually true in order to liberate ourselves. It's necessary in order to develop the proper counter strategies that are required to liberate ourselves. Keeping us believing in falsehoods is how the white oppressors prevents our liberation. is precisely the reason why they have our communities drowning in so much false information in regards to our plight and condition. This is also why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. We must teach the truth whether we're hated for doing so or unfriended for doing so. We must teach the truth whether it fills the room or clears it out. We must teach the truth regardless of who it offends, friends or family. Because we are called to awaken the sleeping sheep, not to appease the mentally enslaved goats who now defends their mental chains. They that have been brainwashed to literally function as wardens of their own mental prisons. The time of believing in nonsense that literally insults our own intelligence is now over. The truth of our plight and condition is that Black people's thoughts and behaviors align with information that they repetitively receive and have accepted as being true. That's the case for all people. Therefore, the white oppressor's greatest power over Black people is that they create the information that Black people repetitively receive and accept as being true. Through their monopoly over information that Black people receive, they've influenced the group psychology of Black people in a very harmful and disturbing way. White oppressive forces determined a long time ago that by fraudulently, negatively distorting and or marginalizing everything that Black people believes about ourselves, that they could condition millions of Black people to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital and control over its Black population. Doing so literally conditions millions of Black people to be more accepting of our subordinate status within the white dominant society. It also makes us more compliant with white dominance over our lives. The white society needs to keep Black people believing the fraudulent worst and lesser about ourselves in order to maintain their social capital and social dominance over the Black population. This is the true white self-serving reason why virtually all information that Black people receives about ourselves from white sources are consistently negative and Black racially demoralizing and Black racially devaluing. It's also the reason why Black people are learning more Black racially affirming facts from each other than we do so from within our white governed schools. They falsely negatively distort and marginalizes virtually everything that Black people believes about ourselves because it makes us more compliant with their white dominance over our lives. They even distorts their maps to make Africa appear 13 times smaller than its true relative size, while making all white countries appear significantly larger than their true sizes. They even keep our perceptions of Africa negative through their media propaganda campaigns that subjects us to seeing only the very poorest parts of Africa. Its negative distortion of Africa is also designed to manipulate we descendants of enslaved Africans to perceive it that the white society's enslavement of our ancestors ultimately benefited us. This manipulation process literally causes millions of Black people to literally feel indebted to the white society for having brutally enslaved our ancestors. The most potent weapon within the hands of the oppressors are the collective minds of the oppressed. That's from Stephen Biko. Therefore, the physical chains have been replaced with psychological chains. This is not a cliche. It is a fact that every Black person needs to elevate their minds from biblical fairy tales and start learning this fact. We must all become aware of it. White dominance is now being maintained by way of psychological warfare. White social engineering scientists describe this nefarious perpetual brainwashing of the Black masses as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the black population that makes us adhere to the authority and the existing infrastructure of the white dominant culture. This is all true. Millions of black people must therefore be deprogrammed from believing all the black racially devaluing lies that the white society has indoctrinated into our minds. Are you one of those black people? To find out, answer the following questions. Is it your thought and beliefs that the endemic problems amongst the black population have nothing to do with social inequalities, but are instead rooted in something inherently wrong with black people themselves? Is that one of your beliefs? Do you believe that whites, in spite of their evil history to the contrary, now possesses the highest moral character and are lesser likely to engage in criminal behavior or activities than black people? Is that your belief? Do you believe that in the U.S., most violent crimes are committed by black people? Do you think that the largest recipient of welfare or largest benefactors of affirmative action or DEI programs are black people? Do you? Do you believe that most black men are marrying white women? Do you believe that most black people do not enjoy reading? Do you believe that black people are now our own worst enemies? Do you believe that Africans on the continent are incapable of properly governing themselves and therefore need white Western foreigners to govern over their affairs? Is that your belief? If these are your beliefs, any of them, you are mentally enslaved. Certainly many will reply, aren't those are the things that most people believe or many people believe? Well, the answer may be yes, but just because most people believes the same things doesn't make those things to be true. All it means is that the masses, the majority, have all received the same fraudulent propaganda campaigns. Propaganda campaigns that are designed to make us think in ways that benefits the white society. Throughout Western history, oppressive empires that maintain their powers have always done so by manipulating the collective minds of the oppressed to think in ways that aids in the oppressed to maintain their control and the oppression of the oppressed. They go out of their ways to make sure that the oppressed population is perpetually misled and manipulated to think in ways benefiting their oppressors. Therefore, the oppressed population's perceptions are not their own. They are falsehoods that have been shrewdly indoctrinated into their minds through subliminal programming, through their oppressors' monopoly over information. Today, this heinous tradition still persists today. Keeping black people believing the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves is how the white oppressors maintain their social dominance and control over the black population. People are easily controlled by the information that they receive about themselves. If people constantly receive positive, affirming information about themselves, this unifies them, it inspires them, it raises their collective self-esteem. However, when people are constantly inundated with negative, demoralizing information about themselves, the exact opposite happens. They become demoralized, divided, self-loathing, and they become more compliant with their oppressor's dominance over their lives. This scenario is precisely what the white society is doing to black people. This daily assault upon the black psyche of negative depictions about ourselves is purposely designed to engender internalized feeling of self-contempt responses within the black population that hinders our unity, our upward mobilities, and manipulates us to accept white dominance over our lives. It also shifts black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it towards ourselves, towards and against ourselves. It also creates disunity and black self-hatred, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people. As long as we're kept within this condition, we can then be ruled over forever. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up. When you are able to control the people's thoughts and beliefs, you don't have to worry about their actions. That's a quote from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. The oppressed will always believe the fraudulent worst about themselves. That's a quote from Frantz Fanon. It is time for us to wake up to our reality. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up to our reality. My content is being heavily shadow banned, but nonetheless, I continue posting. I'm asking you to take it and forward it and share it. We must all do our part to liberate the minds of our people. One love and peace.